Welcome to the Awakened Human Podcast, the place to be for highly progressive, yet extremely grounded intuitive guidance, energetic support, metaphysical tools, and higher consciousness for highly successful, ambitious, soul-centered visionaries and leaders like you who want to make a global impact and achieve your highest fulfillment by aligning with your soul's true divine agenda and your role in God's plan of lighted creation, and by utilizing your divine gifts, talents, and abilities from the higher realms. We do this by working with the non-physical realms of higher guidance, energy, intuition, and powerful metaphysical tools for healing and transformation. We understand that the real change and transformation that's being called for on planet Earth and in our own lives and our own businesses doesn't come from outside of us, but rather from within. And that the change that we desire to experience in our lives and in our world requires us to change from the inside. I'm your host, Lori Ann Spagna. I'm a best-selling author, spiritual catalyst, intuitive, energy worker, ascension guide, multidimensional channel, animal communicator, visionary, lightworker, and luminary. I have dedicated my entire professional life to helping thousands and thousands of humans and animals all over the world in service and contribution to the light, which is the expansion, the upliftment, the evolution of humanity, to awaken, to uplift, and to align with our true divine source, which exists within each and every one of us. It is my passion, joy, and purpose to share this information, energy, and consciousness with you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing time with me. Let's get started. Well, hello and blessings. It's Lori with you here today. Thank you for being here. How are you? How are all of you beautiful, magnificent beings out there? This is the Awakened, Elevated Human. You may have noticed that there's a new music intro. I picked a new one. The reason was that YouTube sometimes gives you these challenging things, like even though the music is licensed to me and is available, for some reason they keep finding something imprinted through technology, and we always have to override it, and it's just extra work. So I decided to pick a new music. It should be working. Hopefully this one will be with us for a while. Let me know how you like it. Let me know if you like the new song on the intro. I'm so happy to be with you. Today we're going to talk about there's no such thing as an accident. This is going to go in hand with next week's episode as well, which is all about you are never wrong, why you cannot be wrong. I'm going to explain it, but tune into that one as well. I'm going to do them both back to back because they're two different topics, but they're very connected. So I was recently speaking with a friend, and she was saying how things just happen. Sometimes things just happen. And actually, I work with a spiritual mentor. I've been working with this person for many years, and I've had many spiritual mentors over the years, and I highly recommend that you find one as well. And I mean, that is, of course, what I do. My sacred mentorship is all about next level coaching and mentorship. It is not the kind of coaching and mentorship that is out there where coaches are taught to sort of ask you questions and let you come up with answers that are right for you, which that's awesome for people who aren't psychic and intuitive. But when you're working with someone who's a channel, like me, I'm a direct channel for ascended masters, divine goddesses, angelic forces. I call them the collective. Sometimes, a lot of times, your own higher self, your own divine team. I can merge with them. They'll merge with me. We'll join as a collective in service and contribution to your most benevolent best, right? If we are aligned, they will absolutely come through. We can connect with your different versions of your higher self, your younger self. We've done that too. Planetary bodies will come through when we need them. Even weather patterns will come through and help us to find out answers about what's happening where, why. Mother Earth. I'm going to do a future episode based on someone's written request to me about understanding more of what Mother Earth's agenda is. We'll do that as a channeling one. That'll probably be 3 or 4 weeks from now. Anyway, this next level coaching, and sometimes we're also communicating with your animals or your loved ones. And this next level coaching is not just about asking you questions and having you sort of self-diagnose through your own consciousness stream, which you absolutely have that. But it's really about helping you accelerate in a much more accelerated pace to level up. Right. So when we're doing that in the mentorship programs, we get next level information, guidance, energy, healing that's specifically and uniquely appropriate for you or for the people in our group. And so, but you can only do that with a really advanced mentor, right? You need an advanced mentor who's reached levels of mastery that you haven't reached yet. And even though we all have mastery within us, we don't all have the same unique gifts, talents, and abilities. We have different purposes, reasons for being here, soul agendas, missions, right? So this is part of what I help people with in my sacred mentorship program. And it's why I have been working with spiritual teachers and masters since I started on my journey in a conscious way. And that's been over 30 years now. It's always hard to work with masters. It really is, because they are in their mastery in some area or another. And, I've really had to adapt myself for my students over the years. But also I know that it's not easy to work with someone who's achieved a level of mastery, because they're going to trigger you. They're going to trigger you. So I know that sometimes when I'm interacting with friends, I trigger them. And I tell my friends, look, I always tell my friends, your shadow's not safe with me. Chances are you'll get triggered by me. And I know that's true. And most of the people who are my friends, over time, they've been around me long enough to know if they're going to stay my friends, they have to take responsibility, right? So this is where we're going today. With this conversation, there's never any accidents. And where we'll go next week with the conversation on you're never wrong. These are so important. So going back to where I started, I was speaking with a friend, and I know that she had gotten triggered by some of the stuff I said, which I'll address more next week. And she made a comment like, sometimes things just happen. And I know that that is something that our spiritual mentor teaches. Now, every mentor, everyone has their own, if they're in a body, they still have challenges on this earth plane. No one is without some form of challenge, because the purpose of the earth plane is for growth. It's not the only purpose, but it is a major purpose, especially at this time, for growth and transformation, spiritual growth, evolutionary growth, which is not the same thing as mental learning something through the mind. It's also not the same thing. Mental learning is not spiritual growth. Even if you learn about spiritual things, that is not spiritual growth. That's mental learning, right? Also, mindset shifting is not spiritual growth, even if the mindset shifting you're doing is regarding spiritual learnings. It's important, it's necessary, it's required in this world. But it is not the same thing as spiritual growth. Sorry, it's not. People would like to believe it is. Okay, so we were having a conversation, my friend and I know I triggered her. I know that I triggered her because she had a perspective that I was making her wrong for something, which I'm going to address that more next week in next week's episode. And she made a follow-up comment. Sometimes things just happen. And I know that our spiritual mentor, the one that we both work with together, he believes that as well. And I completely disagree. And I recognize just because he's my mentor doesn't mean he knows everything, but he is a very advanced being and he really gets energy work. So like everyone has challenges and growth areas. In this area, I am 100% certain. Nothing happens by accident. Nothing. Things don't just happen. And here's how I know. Sorry, little demanding pooch here. The reason nothing happens by accident is that there are laws of the universe, which are known in quantum physics, but not understood always in quantum physics in a spiritual way, because they are spiritual laws that physics has identified, and that we can bridge the gap between. I teach an entire class on this in the universal laws. And when I teach that class, it's because the laws themselves are conscious. There's consciousness in everything. The laws are part of the collective that I channel, and the laws taught me. So while I'm not really able to teach my spiritual mentor, he's not open to teaching from humans. He is only open to teaching from his divine team, his source creator God. That's part of his, in my perspective, a little bit blind spot, but it works for him. It's his journey. And he has amazing gifts to offer. At the same time, I have been a lot more open, in my opinion, to different ways of learning. And the way I learned this was through direct teaching, through my connection with universal law. So universal laws govern this reality, whether we know it or not. And they are part of my collective, or I'm in the collective with them, or they come into my collective when I call upon them, need them to learn from them. And I have a whole course, a mini course. It's available for purchase, and it's in my sacred mentorship program, and it's in the sacred membership on the universal laws. And I highly, highly recommend people learn this, because once you start learning the universal laws, you start recognizing how reality works. And it really helps you, hugely helps you to understand why things happen. Doesn't answer every single question, but overall it starts giving you big picture, visionary perspective about why things happen, because the laws are governing this reality. And the laws work for God's source creator, the infinite, the all that is, the I am, the divine, the spark, the flame, the mother, father, however you want to define that source, the quantum field. They serve it according to its plan for lighted creation, for its agenda for humanity, and for this physical world and the universe that we live in, and potentially other universes, which we refer to as multiverses. We don't entirely know all that because we're not in all of the multiverses in our human identity. However, those exist in parallel, in conjunction with this reality. So regardless, the universal laws govern this universe, and they work together in an organized and orchestrated way. And they are overseeing everything that takes place. Now, there's also logi, by the way, who serve the light. And these logi are ascended masters who work at different so-called offices. And they are also serving the light and God's source creator's plan for lighted creation. And these guys are all orchestrating and organizing together. Now, how do they work? Because this reality includes free will, right? Includes free will, which is a law. It's a law. Universal law, intent, consent, and authority. That's the name of that law. So the law of intent, consent, and authority says you have free will, even if your free will is to go unconscious and give your power away to another. Even if your free will is to unconsciously self-sabotage. Even if your free will is to unconsciously give your sovereignty to an external power or authority, such as a queen or a king or a president or a doctor or a lawyer. If that's your free will, so be it. So universal law number one is intent, consent, and authority. I'm not here to teach the laws. Take the class if you want to know more. But one of the laws is the law of synchronicity. The law of synchronicity is a sub-law under the law of aerodynamics. Now, physics might not explain it quite this way. I didn't learn the laws from physics. I learned the laws from the laws themselves. That's how I studied it. But the law of synchronicity, which is a sub-law under the law of aerodynamics, which I'll never forget when I learned about that law, because I was outside of a different friend's house in Jupiter, Florida, getting out of my car, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this law comes in, and it's like, I am the law of aerodynamics. I'm like, who the F are you? Like, how come I don't know about you? I've been teaching a class on the universal laws for years. And it was like, well, I didn't need to come through. I'm like, what? Why didn't you come in for the class? And the law said, you didn't call upon me. I didn't need to. I'm not here to teach your class. I'm like, well, why are you here now? Well, you asked a question. I'm here to answer it. And the question at that time had something to do with, why do some things happen so haphazardly? Like, why do some things just seem to happen? And then it introduced me to the sub-law called the Law of Synchronicity, which I have worked with many times over the years since then. I love this law. But the way they've taught it to me was, there are no accidents. There's no mistakes. Everything is divinely on purpose. But you may, let's go back to the law of free will, intent, consent, and authority. You may choose something unconsciously without realizing it to help your soul in your soul's agenda, which is part of your free will choice, consciously or unconsciously, to resolve or address some issue that the soul wants to address. And if the soul wants to address, you could say soul or the divine self or the part of you that is infinitely evolving. If that aspect of you wants to resolve something, something may happen to you that you might perceive just happened. You might perceive it to be an accident. You might not know or realize how it happened, right? When we talk about car accidents, this is a great example. People talk about car accidents. I'm going to go on a little detour, side note on this call, because it's a really good story. Years ago, I asked, like, why do car accidents happen? And when I was asking this is one of the lessons that the law taught me. Different laws taught me, not just law of synchronicity. Like, this was even before I knew about the law of synchronicity. And what I was told is it's when someone's not rightly aligned with their path. So they get into an accident because they're not on the right path. They're not on their right journey. And then I was like, it was downloaded, right? When I say downloaded, instilled into my consciousness, awakened. Like, this is how we can extract information from the field of intelligence. And this information was given to me, provided to me based on my question, which, by the way, law of cause and effect taught me, when a question is asked, an answer will be provided, but not if one human identity provides it themselves. So I teach people how to ask questions without answering them. That's part of also how you can learn. Okay. So in any case, I asked, why do car accidents happen? And then it was taught to me, like, if a person's going, there's different reasons why car accidents happen. So, and I'm not going to go into all that, but that's in the class. But here's the thing that's so interesting, where I was going to go on this quite little bit of a diversion, is when I was getting car insurance, the person who was trying to sell me the car insurance tried to manipulate me with fear. And it was so intense because she was trained, right? Oh, what if you get in a car accident? What if you get in a fender bender? What if this, what if that? Like, she was just going into the storyline to try to manipulate me to buy a higher level of car insurance. And it was so overpowering to me that while she was doing it, I had to extract myself energetically from allowing that fear. I had to really reclaim my knowing of who I was, my power. It was a little challenging dynamic because she was really highly manipulative and highly trained. I don't even know if she knew she was doing it, but she was using fear to try to get me to buy more car insurance. And I allowed her to just go on because I was not going to get into an argument, because she would have easily tried to entangle me into an argument to sell me that. And so I just said, yeah, I hear you on all that. Thank you so much. I just didn't want to get into it, but it was really aggravating to me at the same time because I could feel it, right? But in truth, you can't get into an accident when you're on your right path. It's just not how it works. I just knew it. So I wasn't afraid. I couldn't be manipulated by the fear. Now, someone who doesn't understand that there's no accidents in life would say, well, what if someone else hits you? Okay, but when you're using your power on the road and you're saying, my intention, which is law of intent, consent, and authority, is to get there safely, easily, gracefully, in the most enjoyable way, which is part of how you work with the laws, then it's not going to happen to you. Now, if you sicken doubt or fear in there, okay, you might get derailed, and it might become a teaching lesson for you from the higher realms, right? But overall, there's no accidents. Now, I want to make this clear that because there's organizing principles of the universe and therefore there are no accidents and nothing is a mistake, there still is always free will. So you might have chosen something consciously or unconsciously, which I said earlier, like your soul's agenda may be to address or resolve something or heal something or develop some level of mastery. And if that's the case, then that's why it's happening, right? That's governed under the law of intent, consent, and authority, which is also working with the sub-laws of karma. All right, I'm not here to teach karma dharma, which are sub-laws of intent, consent, and authority. I'm not here to teach the universal laws, as I've said, but I am here to say there's no accidents, right? When you start recognizing the intelligence of the universe, how intelligent it is, how organized it is part of how you reclaim your power, which is a huge part of what I teach and what I'm here for, is how to help people and animals reclaim their power through alignment with universal intelligence, divine source, their oversoul's aspects, their soul's agenda, the divinity that is within you. And yes, to live a great life and also to live life in a better way. So, and that's what the ascended, that's what all of the collective that I work with is helping with. And that's what we do in our sacred mentorship program. That's what we're always working on. It's absolutely next level coaching and mentorship. And it's part of what we do also as we're activating DNA, which, by the way, I didn't mention this, but August 8th is the Lion's Gate. I'll be doing DNA activations. Yeah, so please join us for that. It's online. It's a webinar. It's the first one this year we're doing. There's a lot of stuff on my YouTube channel about the Lion's Gate, if you're not familiar with what that is, and the DNA activations. And of course, if you haven't already gotten the gifted DNA activations through the website, please do go get those. LoriSpagna.com/free gifts/DNA. But that's part of really reclaiming your power and awakening the divine from within you, right? It's stored in your DNA. You don't do DNA activations just once. You do them over and over and over again. Not the same ones. There's all kinds of codes. Like we don't even know. There's so many codes. It's, as far as I can tell, it's incredible. There's so much more gifts that keep coming online every time you work with them and activate them. More of your unlimited potential, right? But this is what I mean. None of it's by accident. It's so intelligent. Divine intelligence is so divinely intelligent, and everything is organized and orchestrated. And free will does play into it, including karma, dharma, soul's agenda. That stuff plays into it, but nothing's by accident. So I'm inviting you now, the next time something's happening to you or going on in your life, there's a higher purpose to it. I'm inviting you to recognize there is some higher purpose or greater purpose for it. It doesn't just happen. And I know that's hard. It does require us to recognize that we are playing a role. We as individuated beings with our free will choice, conscious and unconscious, and with our soul's true divine agenda, we are playing a role in that. And people will ask, I hear it already. I can hear it in the moment. Well, what about innocent children? What about poor innocent children? What about poor innocent animals? What about women who are, enslaved or, minorities? All of that. There is purpose for all of it. Soul growth, soul learning, soul evolution, reasons that we as humans might not fully know that ultimately serve evolution, growth, expansion, and that serve individuated souls as well in their journey. So I hope that helps you. I mean, nothing is by accident. Nothing just happens. Even though there are infinite potentials based on free will choice, based on energy, vibration, consciousness, where your consciousness goes, where your unconscious sort of draws you, what you're consciously and unconsciously choosing, and of course, what you think and feel. This is why we have to take responsibility for our thinking, beliefs, belief systems, thoughts, emotions, attitudes. I always teach that as well, because that's part of how we co-create with the universe. And that's a huge part of what's in the realms of the free will, governed by intent, consent, and authority. And the other universal laws as well. All right, so I hope this has been helpful. If you're interested, please head over to LoriSpagna.com. You can get that class for the universal laws. It's also inside the sacred membership. And please join us for the next DNA activations. Call on 88. If you're hearing this afterwards, you can still get the replay from the most recent activations, DNA activations. Right? And there's a whole membership for that as well. All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm sending you so much love. By the way, one final PS, please listen to next week's call. It's going to be all about why you're never wrong. You are never wrong. You're going to love it. It's dovetailing with this episode. I hope this has been helpful. For now, I'm signing off. I'm sending you so much love. All right. Farewell for now. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening today. If you loved the show and if you benefited in any way, if it helped you to up-level or expand your consciousness, if you gained any new insights or ideas, if it made you think or become more aware, or if there were some strategies or intuition that you may have benefited from in any way, would you please do me two easy and simple favors? First, if you would be willing to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I'd be so grateful. And second, if you're willing to share this show with anyone else who would benefit, you can either post it on your social media or just email it to someone and share it with another person or any other people. It would be so awesome. This kind of thing is so helpful in expanding consciousness on the planet and helping others to benefit from this kind of teaching, which just simply isn't generally readily available in the mainstream. So sharing it really helps others benefit and helps our planet evolve and awaken. Plus, expressing gratitude and generosity in this way will also expand your capacity to give and receive even more. Either way, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for participating and for sharing, and overall, just for being the magnificent, the spectacular, the brilliant, the fabulous, the wonderful you that you truly are, and for allowing yourself to be the very best version of you today and every day. All my love and gratitude to you.